What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of the Mint City Soccer Show. I'm Corey Insko, and I'm here with my good friend, Johnny Wakefield.
Hey,
How
Corey.
you doing, Johnny?
I'm all right. Kind of tired, but excited for a new month in 2020.
2020. January felt really long.
January has been a horrendous month for, I think, everybody
It's
on
been
the
a hell
planet.
of a year. A hell of a year in January.
But we're excited that February starts. You'll probably be listening to this in February, actually.
You are.
So let's all be thankful that January is behind us.
Exactly. And one of the new beginnings is this is our first official episode of this here Mint City Soccer Show. After my rambling episode 0 teaser, just so I could put it up on the feed and get it out to all the various podcast channels.
It was good, though. I had a couple people say, man, that Corey has a sultry voice.
I practice a lot in the bathroom. I have
awkward?
really good reverb. I just really practice my voice in the shower in the mornings.
I would like to say it's NPR instead of like yelling sports radio.
Do I need to yell more?
No, please don't.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Because I could sit back and yell.
That could be some of the social media feedback we get after the episode. This is where we tie it in. Does Corey need to yell more, or is he good as like a sultry NPR style soccer radio?
Do you think NPR has a soccer show?
I don't know. I'm sure they
That'd
do.
be really funny. I want.
There's shows for everything, right?
What's the American Life guy? This American Life? I can't think of his name right now.
Neither can I. I've had too much beer.
I want him to do a soccer show. I'm gonna email
Or we
him.
could just do it right now.
Okay, let's do it. So, I think the first thing we need to do in this first episode is kind of give people an introduction to what the heck it is that we're doing here, which, let's be honest, we're not completely sure, and we're going to figure out as we go, so it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. There's only so we can go up from here, which is the good thing.
hope,
But no, so I talked about it a little bit in that teaser episode, but the background is that we are part of the Mint City Collective, which is Charlotte's MLS supporters group, which was formed a few months before the MLS team was actually announced.
Yeah, like 6 months before. They started in the summer of 2019.
So it was a very hopeful
That's right.
start.
Hopeful
We had a
group.
good feeling that it was coming, but it started even before we actually had a team. And of course, now that we have a team that is going to be on the field in just about a year from now,
That's right.
which is insane
For everybody.
Things have really ramped up. So as part of that, there's been some various media channels that have started up, one of them being the newsletter that Johnny does.
That's
and
right.
I help occasionally with.
You help quite a bit. It's the Mint City Chronicle. So the Mint City Chronicle is just kind of like if you're familiar with Roaring Riot, it's the Riot Report version for soccer. We just try to cover any stories that come out and then the things that the collective is doing. And that's kind of some of what we'll be doing here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So like just the Riot is a good example of that. So they have the Riot Report where they do their, newsletter and online media thing, and they also have their series of podcasts. And this is kind of our first foray into that, being kind of the flagship podcast, doing a lot of the same things where we're going to be talking about, obviously the Charlotte MLS team, because that's what our focus is, but also, especially in this first year, we don't have actual games to talk about.
Right.
Spending a lot of time talking about just Charlotte soccer in general. And that can mean a lot of things, whether it's, the history of the game here, interviews with some of the, I guess, soccer, what's the word I want? Like
not influencers.
Influencers is what I thought of, but I didn't want to say it.
I didn't want to
say
go
it.
there.
But people you should know in the soccer community in Charlotte,
Right.
Whether they're with MLS or with other things, some of the nonprofits involved with Charlotte, some of the other soccer teams we have, professional and otherwise. So I think it's going to be kind of a primer on what Charlotte soccer is, with, of course, a lot of that being on the MLS team as we build up to that launch.
I think it's safe to say, too, that we'll have some access to the team with this Mint City Collective group. And that's
the goal.
That's been one of the most exciting and fun parts of this thing, is that they got us involved in the announcement, and they got us involved just throughout the last few months. And so as the team starts to hire people and as the team starts to bring in players and staff of all sorts, hopefully we'll have a good chance to interview them here with this show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of a good preview into what you can expect from this. So it's a mix of, again, Charlotte MLS news, but also almost every episode we're hoping to have some kind of interview with someone, whether with the team or related to the Charlotte soccer scene, involved with that too. And really what we also want a big part of this to be is a good interaction with our listeners and other people in the collective too. Right. We want to know what y'all want to hear. We want to know who you want to hear from. We want to know what you want us to talk about. So that's definitely something where you should get involved in our social channels. We are on Mint City Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. I'm very bad at Instagram. so please don't judge what that Instagram account does.
Sure.
But also, go ahead.
We've also had people come up to us at the different events and let us know, like, hey, I've got this podcast idea. And if they don't want to execute it themselves, they want to see somebody do it. So we've got some ideas from collective members and from other people who've kind of been around us in the last few months. And we'll incorporate some of that as we go too, and maybe bring those people on. So if you're a part of the collective and like interact with us in the Mint City Collective Slack, or even on just general Twitter for Chronicle or Collective or whatever, all these different branches, let us know what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good segue into our pitch for joining the collective. If you're listening to this and you're not a member, please head to mintcitycollective.com. That's where you can learn more about us, what we're doing, what we're all about. We're actually probably going to have a follow-up episode. I'm thinking this is going to be episode 2, is more of a deep dive into the collective, its origin story, what we believe in, and what we're doing right now that you can get involved with.
The people who started it up, like people who've been doing soccer stuff here for a decade.
Absolutely.
Like,
really cool stories there. So we'll talk about that in a future episode. But you can go to the mintcitycollective.com website and learn more about it there. And also that's where you can sign up to be a member, which is a great deal. You pay, what is it, $30?
I think it's $30, yeah.
$30. We're saying, we don't actually know the price.
Pretty sure it's $30.
But pretty sure it's $30. You get a sweet Mint t-shirt, you get a sticker, you get your membership card, and you become a part of this organization. And that gives it to you through the beginning of until the start of next season, I believe, is when it starts. And it gets you access to the Mint City Collective Slack, which is a really vibrant community of soccer diehards and people who love Charlotte. It's a really cool chat community in there that you can get access to from that. But also information about a lot of different events that we have going on. I think one big part of this, and again, we'll talk about this in a future episode, is that we really want the collective to be involved in the community beyond soccer too. So there's a lot of really cool community events going on. We were over at Project 658 playing some streets. Oh, I wasn't playing.
We were not playing.
We were not playing. We were watching. I wore athletic pants in the off chance that I might be able to play. Then I saw the skill level on the court, and I was like, nah.
We had about 50 people playing futsal or street soccer or Volta or whatever you want to call it, and that. Yeah, beyond me. I wanted to wake up the next morning.
Exactly. So. But Project 68 is an amazing organization. We'll probably have something about them in a future episode too. Yeah, but getting involved with these nonprofits who are, involved in the soccer community and doing really cool things. So it's not just about drinking beer and watching games. That'll probably be a part of the Mint City Collective, but it's about a lot more than that. It's about building a really cool community in Charlotte. So definitely go to mintcitycollective.com, follow the social channels, join, get your sweet t-shirt, and get on the Slack channels where you can bug us about some podcast ideas you have for the future.
Right. And did you want to talk about how you subscribe to this one, or do you feel like people who are listening know these things? Because I'm fairly old in this world, I guess. Like I'm 35, but I feel fairly old when it comes to podcasts.
Nope, that's fair. So at the time of listening to this show should be on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Podcasts. And basically anywhere you normally would listen to podcasts, and you can find it there. Hit subscribe. Leave us a review if you want to. If you're ready to review us after one episode, I am all for it. Just please make it 5 stars.
Yeah, probably. If it's
give
us a few episodes.
If it's not 5 stars after one episode, just
give us a
hold your review for a couple episodes. Give us a chance to make it a little bit better. But you can find it there. If you have a podcast app of choice that we are not on, message us on social or on the Slack and let us know. I can get it over there. I'll do my best to get it over there. But yeah, we're on we're going to try to be on all the places you can find us. You can hit subscribe and get the episodes right to you. Right now we're looking at publishing every other week. It might get more frequent as we get closer to the season. The 2021 season, not this season that we're not part of.
It's only a year away.
I know. It's only a year away. It's crazy. But that's how you can listen to us. And definitely, like I said, follow us on the social media and give us some feedback. Let us know what you think and what you like. So on the second half of the show, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about our soccer backgrounds and our Charlotte backgrounds a little bit too. Let y'all get to know us a little bit better.
Who, me and you?
Yeah, me and you.
All right, cool.
People, I mean, I assume if they're listening to this, they might want to know a little bit about us.
Yeah, that seems fair.
This might be a make or break moment as to whether they keep listening when they learn more about us.
breaths.
So don't screw this up. But we'll be right back after this quick break. Johnny.
Oh, gosh.
We don't have a sponsor.
No, we don't have a sponsor yet.
It's episode 1, so it's fairly understandable that no one has signed on to this yet. They're still waiting to see.
I had no idea where you were taking this.
So let's just do beer shout outs. So
That's
Johnny, what beer are you drinking today?
Actually, tonight during this recording, I'm drinking one of my favorites lately is Sycamore, and their Special Brownies Chocolate Stout.
Ooh.
Special Brownies has some connotations to it, but I think it's just chocolate, I'm hoping.
They're not weed
I have
brownies in your beer?
responsibilities.
It could be, what is it, CBE? Is that the...
I haven't read the label. Maybe I should get into that. But
It might.
But Sycamore has some crazy beers that come out all the time, so I'm a big fan. So if you work at Sycamore and you like us, hey, we're around.
Yeah. And
Just saying. There are other beers that we like also.
And if you're listening to us from down the street in South End at Triple C Brewing, I'm drinking a White Blaze Winter Ale, which is one of my favorite winter ales with some nice spices added, as the can tells you.
This is fairly ridiculous.
This is our... we have to... Look, they're not going to let us keep doing this if we don't...
That's fair.
if we don't support ourselves.
That's fair.
So, yeah, some nice White Blaze. And we should also say that we have, just as a backup in case this really goes off the rails.
Off the rails.
We have some Noda Jam Session also on the table.
Jam Session is a go-to.
Which
also
you
like their 1775, but I haven't seen any cans.
No, that is a good
Have
one.
you?
I don't know.
haven't
That's a
seen
good point, but I do love that beer. I drank, a few at Independence games last summer.
Yes, you did.
When Johnny would drive me home. So if you're at any of these breweries and want to give us a shout, please do. In the meantime, we will keep on drinking your delicious beer. And we're back. So, Johnny, I think we want to spend the second half of this show talking a little bit about who we are, our soccer bona fides or lack thereof. And kind of just give people an idea of where we come from and where our kind of perspective on the Charlotte soccer world is. So I'll let you kind of start. When did your let's before Charlotte, because you've been a well-traveled man.
I am a
Where did your soccer fandom begin?
That's where the gray hair comes from. So I guess I should remember the questions you asked so I can ask you later. But I grew up in St. Louis, and so I was a big St. Louis Cardinals and Blues fan. That neither of those teams play soccer, and if you're not aware,
They don't.
So I didn't really get into soccer actually until I went to Africa after college, and I lived there for a year, and that was the only sport anyone cared about. So followed Arsenal from Africa because some friends there did, and then got into the local team, which is the Kaiser Chiefs.
I love that
in
name.
Johannesburg.
It's a great band too.
That was my first soccer game, was in Johannesburg before the 2010 World Cup. And so it was it was the Kaiser Chiefs versus the Orlando Pirates. And those are the two big teams in Soweto.
Orlando City should rename themselves.
The Orlando Pirates, yeah. It's a good look, too. But they hate each other. And so I went to that game, and I was one of maybe a dozen white guys in a crowd of like 72,000 people. And it was amazing. We just loved that game. And so since then, like 2006, I've been really into soccer. Came back from Africa and then moved to Seattle. And so I lived in Seattle when the Sounders came to town. Sonics left, and then the Sounders came in and kind of took their spot and blew up. So everybody in Seattle loved the Sounders. I had season tickets from the first day. And so MLS is really where I became a soccer fan. So for the last few years, I've been covering, we'll get to in a bit, lower division soccer in the Carolinas. But MLS was really my first soccer love. And so followed the Sounders diehard as season ticket holder for 3 years, and then moved back east to date and then marry my wife, who lived in Columbus. So we went to Crew games fairly often the years that we lived there, and then eventually ended up in Charlotte in 2014. So since then, I've been in Charlotte and trying to follow the Charlotte soccer scene. That's, I guess, 6 years now, 5.5. Goodness. But one of the first people I met in Charlotte was Zach Hall. And Zach Hall ran a website called Crowntown Soccer. Crowntown Soccer, and actually Zach and I got to know each other through that and through the launch of the Independence in the fall of 2014. So just kind of been along for that entire ride with the Independents and with the Charlotte Eagles, and then also with North Carolina FC and the Charleston Battery. And then there are, another dozen teams that we've tried to follow.
There are a lot of teams
since then.
So let's just say if you're looking for soccer to watch in between now and when MLS launches in 2021, whether you're in Charlotte specifically or any of the surrounding areas or states, you have a slew of options.
There are a lot of teams here.
From USL to League One to League
NPSL,
Two, NPSL, NISA.
Yes,
yeah. There's a plethora of options.
Well, and we didn't get to the women's teams either. The Courage, and then
absolutely.
There's like 20 WPSL teams I saw today on our. Well, so that's the other part of the story. In 2017, I launched a website called Soccer and Sweet Tea with like 20 friends, and all of us kind of covered and still cover 3 years later. Lower division Carolina soccer teams. So we cover them to various degrees. Like some people write game recaps and previews of each of the games, and others follow from a distance and write like just fan perspective stuff. And last year, I guess, or 2 years ago, I brought Corey on, and we kind of do it together. So we've been in this Carolina soccer culture for a while. And it is a varied one. There are people who really excited about MLS. There are some people who are not excited because of what it means for their teams that currently exist. And we understand, I think, or at least I do. I think you do too, Corey. We kind of understand all of those perspectives. I got pretty close with some of the guys in Raleigh who were really excited about their MLS bid, and they are very upset that Mint City Collective exists and that we have a team that's coming in 2021. And I understand that. I'm hopeful for them still that they continue to have a successful USL team and maybe an MLS team at some point. But I know that there are members of the collective who also want to go burn down Cary because that's just how rivalries work.
Crib.
So yeah, there's a lot of different soccer things here in Charlotte and the Carolinas. I'm trying to figure out what that looks like over this year. 2021, really excited for our MLS team. And yeah, just kind of run the gambit. I'm also like diehard Leeds United.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I went there in 2010 to England and walked into a bar in Wakefield, because that's my last name, and said, "Hey, where's the Wakefield FC stadium?" And everybody laughed at me. But I knew that was a team from the internet. And they said, Wakefield's actually a suburb of Leeds. And they all said, no, we're Leeds United fans here, sir. Wakefield FC is like a 7th division National League sort of team that I don't think exists anymore, actually. They've kind of broken up. But yeah, so that's when I picked up Leeds United. And I remembered that, even though that's like my number one team, because here's the segue.
Yep.
Corey is wearing a Stoke City shirt.
You're darn right.
So, Corey, you have a varied history with soccer as well, not just American soccer, but Stoke City, which is an interesting choice at this point in the world.
Very random.
I don't know if you want to start from the beginning like I did and tell the whole narrative, because that's how my brain works, or if you just want to jump in.
I would probably jump around.
How are you a soccer fan? Why are you here?
Why are you here? So I am one of those that became a soccer fan really around the World Cup. So I believe it was the 2010 one. Was the 2010 one like the last second goal that Lynn Donovan scored? You remember?
Yeah.
Okay, that was 2010. So that was my boss at the time. I used to work at the Charlotte Observer. I was a sports writer there, covering mostly high school sports. And my boss at the time was a huge soccer fan, played soccer in college. And so he had the games on during the day while we were all at work. And so I was like, just watch them while we're working and doing anything like that. And that was my first real time watching soccer on any kind of scale.
Yeah.
And got really into it because there were some really exciting matches. And then that kind of continued. And after that, I was like, well, let me just try picking out an English team and just to see, because MLS never really appealed to me initially, and probably because we didn't have a local team at all. It was either DC or Atlanta wasn't an option at the time, obviously. So it was DC, and that was really it anywhere nearby. And I've dabbled with DC and also Columbus fandom, and it never even came close to sticking. So MLS was never really a thing. So I picked an English team, and I was like, all right, here are my criteria. I'd like to not pick one of the top tier teams because I don't want to feel like a bandwagon fan.
Like a top 4, top 6 sort of team.
Yeah. None of those. None of the Chelseas or Man U's or any of those people. But I also don't want to pick a team that would be like immediately relegated. Spoiler alert.
Irony.
They weren't immediately relegated.
No, they weren't. That's fair.
And then I also wanted to have some kind of tie behind it. Like an American player would be nice, which I didn't maybe pick the best American player, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later.
We don't have to.
We don't have to. But I researched the Inscoe family name and found out that we came from a part of England, and I looked up the county, and the only Premier League team in that county was Stoke City.
That's an awesome reason.
Yeah, they were at that point like right in the middle of the table, like always hanging around like 8th or 9th or 10th. They've been up in the Premier League for I think 4 or 5 years at that point when I started pulling for them. They had an American, Jeff Cameron.
That's
all we'll say about that. Yeah. And also the first game I watched, Peter Crouch scored a goal and did the most amazing like chicken. I'm doing it. And you can't see it on the.
We need a video podcast, don't we?
But yeah, we get Andrew Owl on that one. They did this amazing dance, and I was sold. And they had a fun nickname, which was the Potters. So I was into it. So I started.
They have a hippo as their mascot.
Hippo as a mascot. Yeah. I mean, I was all in. So
fantastic.
So I started rooting for them, and I still root for them, even though they got relegated and almost got or still in danger of getting relegated again.
Yeah.
It's really hard to watch them on TV now, and especially after today when they got beat 4-0 by.
I wasn't going to bring it up. Yeah.
Sorry. That was rough.
It was not a good
My
game.
ESPN Plus feed cut out halfway through, and I was like, that's probably a good call. It's probably a good thing I'm not watching this.
So Stoke City.
Yes, that was the main team I watched for many years there at games. I couldn't really get into MLS. I would obviously watch all the national teams, men's and women's, get into those games too.
That's a pretty common story too.
Yeah.
Like just to cut in that I think there's a lot of people probably even listening to this podcast who have an English team because it's one of the bigger leagues in the world, and they can watch it on Sunday morning with friends, Saturday morning with friends, and then they watch it every 4 years, every other year, but then every 4 years with the World Cups. I
was going to say, I think it's maybe one of the more rare situations where MLS was like your league. Yeah, that's what you got into more. Like you have an English team now, which is not even a Premier League team. They probably will be soon, but not the jinx.
Knock on wood. You just ruined it.
Sorry, I did it last year too. But yeah, you fell in love with MLS, which I think is a situation where a lot of American fans, unless they happen to be in a city that had a team, they didn't do that. They were an English fan or a Germany league fan or somewhere like that, somewhere in Europe, and maybe gradually came over to MLS.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting place to be at. But I followed local Charlotte soccer, not to the degree that you did. Sure. I got to be on some of those Crown Town soccer shows. That's how I met you, I think.
Yeah, I think
one of the first times I met you.
Right.
Got involved with that. I followed the Independents a little bit those first few years until I got involved with Soccer and Sweet Tea, and that's when I really dove deep into the deep end of local lower league soccer that I did not realize existed.
Picked a pretty rough time to jump in. Independents were actually fairly good the first few years. Last year was a rough one.
Yeah, it was.
We had season tickets.
Yeah, we had season tickets, which was the first time I really feel like I fully embraced kind of a local Charlotte team fandom. And honestly, there were some rough times.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun at those games. I really enjoyed it, and I think the Independents they're a fun team to go watch. I really do. Like I know that they're out in Matthews, and some people don't like driving that far out. I live down that direction, so I'm not as opposed to it. They have a cool little stadium set up, and usually they have some talent around them. So had a lot of fun watching them, and have really just been hoping for an MLS team to come to Charlotte, just to be able to have that MLS, that top tier team that I can get behind and root for. Because I've always wanted to root for an MLS team and follow America's top tier league, but I've never really had that team to get into. And now I'm really excited to have a Charlotte team yet to be named to root for.
Right. Well, and you don't have any of the other like diehard attachments to one. Like for me, the Sounders won MLS Cup last year. Like they're a good team. And so there's a lot of people in our Slack who've said, hey, I already have a team. What are the rules here?
Right.
Like, do I have to give them up completely?
Like someone who might be an Atlanta fan who is, I think after some recent roster transactions has
fairly upset
committed
about it.
themselves to cement.
They're leaving the bandwagon. But there are some people even here in town who are Atlanta fans who are like, so what's the rules? What are we going to do? You don't have those commitments. I think that it's a exciting time. What you said, that there aren't many people who have fallen in love with soccer through MLS. They will next year. Like there will be a lot of people, if you're listening to this, you probably like soccer already, but who are coming to the game brand new. and now have a chance to go and see a team, and they're going to say, oh, this is fun. Soccer isn't just like the boring communist game that my grandpa told me about where there's 1-0 games and nobody's happy. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the exciting part for me. My neighbor actually came over tonight and was bringing us food for dinner, which was really nice. Hi, David. I'm giving you a shout out. This is awkward. But we were talking a bit, and he's like, he has never been to Bank of America Stadium because Panthers tickets are expensive. Mm-hmm. And you can go once maybe and spend we're not knocking the Panthers at all. I love going to those games.
The Panthers.
But a lot of people don't go to those games, and then they see the price of maybe an MLS ticket, and they're like, oh, I can do that. So he's going to likely put deposits down for season tickets. Even though that's a couple $100, you get a lot for that couple $100. And I think he'll have a chance then, and a lot of other new people to the sport and people who are new to Charlotte, to kind of say, okay, this is it. Like, this is my team. So I'm really excited about that, even for David, but also for you, like to say, okay, I finally have this top tier team that is an exciting professional event in a massive stadium with tens of thousands of people.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands would be a stretch, but
there aren't that many seats.
There aren't that many seats. But they do have 22,000 depotsits already.
They do.
As of this recording. So
yeah, I think if you've never been to a soccer match of any kind, or MLS or otherwise, I think you have to go to understand the atmosphere. It's incredible. And I think people who've never been to matches, they see like a 0-0 draw and they're like, why the hell do people watch this sport? And it's like, you have to kind of start to understand it and then also be there for the experience and the theater of like the supporters group banging on drums and singing in one corner or one whole side of a stadium, depending on what we're able to take over.
Right.
And just the whole crowd standing up and getting into it and the flow. I mean, it's a whole different world and a different experience. And I think when we pack, like you said, tens of thousands of people into a football stadium on a summer day, it's going to be an awesome, awesome experience that I think will turn a lot of people into big fans.
It'll help if they win that first game.
It will.
Yeah.
But I'll say
if they lose, I think we'll still be okay, but that helps a lot.
My first and only MLS game was a DC United match.
Oh, yeah.
It opened the season like 2 years. It was the last year in RFK.
Wasn't it like 10 degrees outside or something?
It was really cold.
Yeah.
It was also the night of the Duke Carolina game. I just remember that.
Right.
Because I rushed to a bar to go watch that. Carolina won. It was all good. But went there and it was a 0. The one thing I said on the plane when we were going up there, I was like, I don't want a 0-0 draw. Like, someone needs to score a goal. It was absolutely a 0-0 draw, and I had the best time. Just like so much fun. Again, we were sitting in the supporters group there. It's an old, crappy stadium. Like, it's not built for soccer in the least, but it was still a blast. Like, the atmosphere there is so cool. So I think people who haven't been to a match will really have a lot of fun in Charlotte too.
I was talking to Tony from the Charlotte Ledger a few months ago, trying to hype up what the Mint City Collective was about.
As the spokesman of the Mint City Collective?
I think that's Capital how it's been described. That's okay. Enough of that. But I was talking to him about it, and one of the quotes that he pulled from our conversation was that you'll be fine with a 0-0 draw, which, okay, it's not always the greatest.
It's not what you want
to go back on it a bit. But one of the things that I told him, and this might test our explicit or not rating on all the different podcast channels.
Are we going to get an E on the first episode?
Well, probably not. But what I told him was, in soccer, like, there's all this buildup, right? And you probably know where I'm going. But if there's a late goal that gives your team the win, and there's been all this like buildup throughout the whole game, it's like an orgasm in the crowd. Like, there are 20, 30, 40,000 people who just explode.
Right.
With all this like emotion and excitement, and the crowd goes crazy and beers thrown and all this stuff. Like, it is probably the best feeling in sports to see your team battle for that long, have no goals happen, or have it be a close game and then win it like that. Is it orgasmic? Is that something that I'm sorry?
If that doesn't sell,
why did I bring this in here?
No, I'm into it. I think that should be on their ads. Like, that should be on the radio ads that they do.
Sultry voice
leading
Corey
up to season ticket sales.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, we'll put that on a billboard.
Do you need a release?
Okay. What have I done? Well, episode 1 is going in the trash. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Oh, man.
No,
so before we go, we did. No. We have one more little segment here.
Okay, good.
We did want to talk a little bit about some news. Since this is the first episode, we're going to cover some ground from the past several weeks and months. But just want to cover a little bit of news to kind of keep people caught up on where the team is at this point. If you haven't been following it, again, you should go on the newsletter to get more breaking news as well. But
right.
Wanted to cover a few of those things. So Johnny, where's the team at as far as like I know they've made some hires, they're making some moves because again they don't have very long before the season starts. They've got to start making some moves on personnel and building up that front office and all that.
Right. Well, if you weren't aware, MLS announced that the 30th expansion team or the 30th team is coming to Charlotte at an event December 17th.
Not say that at the beginning?
I don't think we mentioned that. So welcome to the show.
So that's the reason we're doing this. That's like 30 minutes into the show.
That's the first story you should know about. But we've released 15 different stories on the Chronicle in the last few months, different things that we think people should go and read, and that's all on the Collective website under the little news tab. But some of those stories, Mark Nichols, I think was maybe not the first official hire, but the first rumored hire. And then after him, Zoran Krneta was hired to be sporting director and technical director. That's kind of big news. So those are the people who kind of put together a lot of what the team will look like. Krneta is more, from what I've heard at least from different people who've explained the different roles, is more of like the whole ship. Like he's going to handle the who plays on the first team. He's going to handle like what the organization looks like as a whole. He's I think the sporting director, if I've got the terms right. And then Mark Nichols was the other hire. He came over from the Seattle Sounders, but he used to work in North Carolina, I think in Greensboro, with some of the lower division teams here. And he's going to be the technical director who's in charge of like the academy and the young up and coming people who Krneta said we want to have some homegrown North Carolina, South Carolina talent on the team. And so that's kind of going to be Nichols' world of expertise. I'm hoping that in the next few weeks we can have those guys on the show and they can tell us a little bit more.
That'd be awesome.
But what we know about them so far is on the Collective website under that news tab. We've done a few stories on them. And then earlier this month, or earlier in January, the team hired Dustin Swinehart, who is kind of a local legend in the soccer world. Used to play for the Eagles, had some time in MLS, and then when he was done with soccer, started this organization we talked about before, Project 658 in East Charlotte on Central Avenue. And Project 658 did a lot of work with kind of refugees and immigrants in the East Charlotte community, and MLS tapped him to be their community engagement guy. So the fact that he is already really invested in the community around Eastland Mall and the sort of area that the team is looking to make a big impact is awesome. I'm really excited that he's the guy that they tapped for that job. We haven't seen yet what he's going to do because, well, it's the first month of existence. But I think those three hires, those are the three we know about so far, to the actual staff of the team, Nichols, Krneta, and Swinehart, are a really good start. Like from everything that we've heard about them, Krneta likes to think outside the box. Nichols has connections already and experience in Seattle. And Swinehart is a Charlotte guy, a legend in the soccer world. So here, all good things from those three. And then I know, too, that the team brought on Ryan Bailey, who some of you might know from Yahoo Sports and Goal TV and some of the other soccer things he's done on the internet. He's doing a lot of the digital media stuff for the team right now.
He will likely be on this podcast.
I hope so.
At least once.
At least once.
Probably multiple times that we can get him.
Ryan, if you're listening, we have beer for you.
We have plenty of beer.
According to our ad, we don't know who will sponsor that beer, but you will be here, and we will have beer for you. So Ryan's a great guy. He's actually a collective member as well. I know Joe Bruno is a collective member from local news. There's a lot of
legend.
A lot of people who are connected with the team. I know Joe's actually a news guy, but connected with the team or excited about the team or part of the collective and like trying to build this thing up. That's all the news we have, really.
We can talk a little bit too. It's not a ton. I mean, the Eastland development I think
Sure.
is nice. I don't have a ton of information on that, but the fact that that's moving forward is really nice. I think that's where they'll build. So Eastland, for anyone who might not know, Eastland Mall was a mall.
It was
in East Charlotte.
Right.
Really huge mall, and it got demolished 10-ish years ago.
a while.
And basically nothing has been built on it since, and it's just this large concrete thing that no one knows what to do with. And
But that's been looking for a suitor. Yeah.
Ideas like a movie studio or a ski slope park or something
Right.
like that. There are a lot of crazy ideas. But it looks like they're moving forward with building the kind of training facility and offices and things like that for the MLS team over there, which I think is a really cool idea. I have faith that they're going to do it the right way, and really engage some of those communities over there.
It seems like they're putting in the work right now for that. I think there's reason to be skeptical too. Not to knock the team.
There absolutely is. Yeah,
that's a piece of land in an area of the city that needs something really good.
Yeah.
And so I hope that that's what happens there.
It's a very multicultural area. A lot of different communities in there, and I think they can do a really good job of engaging those communities, building something that's not just for MLS, but also for that group and that community, and engages them, whether it be with retail or other things they do there. But I think it has the power to be something really cool that re-engages that community.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I'm not really in that neighborhood. I'm kind of in the southeast world, but not too far from it. So I'm hoping that they do a good job of kind of engaging that world.
Yeah.
So that's coming along too. We'll probably have something on that in the collective or in the Chronicle. Thank
You're
you.
going to write,
Assuming I write it this weekend, we'll see what happens.
The only other thing that I would say we should talk about is the jerseys.
The jerseys. Are we going to talk about it when you dropped that bomb on Twitter?
Well, we dropped the bomb on Twitter, what was it, Thursday night. We had gotten a picture a few weeks ago from somebody about what potential jerseys might look like for the team. Kits for those who are soccer fluent. Shirts and shorts and socks and all of it.
I'm just going to call them jerseys. I'm sorry. There's
That's fine.
some of
You're an American.
the soccer terminology, the football terminology I can't get behind. I'm not going to call it a pitch.
That's fair.
And I'm not going to call it a kit. It's a jersey.
That's allowed.
Sorry.
No gatekeeping from me, at least.
Don't at me.
Somebody will, but that's all right. So the jerseys, for the sake of this conversation, we saw one that was all blue with a black stripe across it and the ally sponsor in white. And those have been met with maybe lukewarm appreciation, but no like rage, just because it's kind of generic. It looks like a late 90s Chicago Fire jersey that we've seen in the league before.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it looks basic.
Nothing
I mean, I get that.
crazy.
I don't dislike it. I think if that was their first jersey,
if you haven't seen it too, you got to go on the Twitters and check things out.
Yeah.
And,
We either of our Twitter accounts. I retweeted his tweet, so you can find either place.
The Twitters are there,
but yeah, it's the Panther blue as the main thing, with
or maybe a little darker.
Maybe a little darker.
I hope not. I hope it's Panther blue. But go ahead.
It's a blue. With a black stripe across the chest-ish area.
Or belly for the dad bod.
Yeah, it depends on.
I don't want that across my dad bod, like a belly band or something. My wife has been pregnant.
With ally and white on it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad. If that was their first jersey, I wouldn't be mad about it. I think I get people that want something a little more of a statement, but
yeah.
Let's be honest. At this point, they could walk out wearing plain white T-shirts, which knowing MLS is a very real possibility.
Very real, yeah.
And I will just be happy to have a soccer team in Charlotte. Like when it
a
really
good
comes down
perspective
to
to
it, I really don't care what they wear. I'll probably buy the jersey regardless of what it looks like.
That's a good place to land.
Yeah,
people on the internet will never say that that's okay.
I do like the black and blue.
Okay.
I think that's I like that color. Leaning again, losing the Panthers color because obviously you have the same owner. I'd like to lean more into the blue, which it seems like they're thinking about with that jersey, and have the black accent.
Same owner, same building, same it's
it
connected.
Makes sense.
Blue and black makes a lot of sense. I think people would like to see some sort of trim or something that differentiates it from the Panthers a little bit. When the Sounders launched in Seattle, again, I will reference them all the time. I'm sorry.
But I mean, it's your experience of an MLS team launching in your city, so I get it.
So they were connected with the Seahawks, and they used the same building, and they used a similar color scheme, but went rave green, which is neon green, essentially. And eventually the Seahawks were like, oh, that works. We're going to pick up that too. So now the Seahawks wear it as well. But it was close enough that people still appreciate it. I think that's probably what the Panthers will do. They'll stick to something close. And so that leak or whatever it was, we're not completely sure yet if it was just like templates or the real deal.
Right. We didn't even talk about the Spider-Man one.
We're getting there. Hold on.
Okay. Sorry.
It showed that I think the blue and black are pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like we know that that's coming. The Spider-Man shirt, on the other hand, to the right of that picture, or the second sort of concept that we saw, didn't have a sponsor on it. And it had a crown in the chest with Spider-Man inspired designs coming out of it.
Black base with the blue design.
Which is something. What do you think, Corey? I'm going to leave my analysis at something.
I don't. If it seems like what a lot of people in the Slack have been saying, and I think I agree too, is that it's probably a training shirt, which you might have already said.
If it's a training, I didn't know.
If it's that, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I don't love it. I won't buy one, but like it doesn't bother me that much. If it was their jersey, that
it's a bit much.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot happening.
It's like,
so we were talking about the first version being a little basic and boring.
It's the opposite.
This is going too far in the other direction.
Yeah.
Like there's a happy medium
somewhere
between those two, and I would rather them lean on the basic if they were going to pick one of the two.
Yeah. I think what I keep coming back to is that some teams come out with their first jersey and it is boring. It is nothing. It's a white shirt or just like Nashville came out with really just a yellow shirt with the Adidas stripes, and that's it.
Right.
You should see the Nashville one if you haven't yet. Twitter will show you, I'm sure. Actually, the MLS is having their whole jersey unveiling on the 5th of February if you're listening to this beforehand. So you can see all of them then. But some teams come out with this like very boring, very simple look, and other teams come out with like what becomes their look. Like Atlanta, I hate Atlanta. I'll just say that over and over in case people aren't sure.
Screw that city.
They came out with this stripe, red and black, AC Milan style look, and that is who they are now. And people know it's part of their crests or their logo.
5 stripes.
It is who they are. And so part of me wants Charlotte to have that. Like, I don't want a white shirt. I'd like to have something that is like, okay, that's who we are. If it's a belly band black with an ally in white over us, okay, that's who we are, I guess. But I'd like it to be something iconic.
If it's a spider web with a crown in the middle?
Spider web's a bit much, man. We'll see about the spider web. But the Sounders came out with the hot green. I think the Dynamo have been bright orange since their beginning. I'd like to see something iconic in the first one, but that might be too high of a bar for a team. As I think Chris Ashley said in one of our Chronicle articles, has 1 year to put everything together.
Yeah.
So it might be, there are a lot of concepts in the design channel on the collective Slack. Some of them we've shared out on Twitter. And some of those concepts are really good. But you're going to see concept kits that are way better than anything we ever see on the field because that's what concepts are. Like that's how every team in the league, they have a bunch of designers in their fan base and they put out stuff that's better than what you actually see. So for me, it's trying to figure out what is the team leaning into, which to me looks like blue and black. And then from that other jersey, we've got a crown, which, is a crown part of the deal?
So that leads into...
Crown FC?
Put your money down. What is the team going to be named?
I'm
going to ask this every episode until it's actually released. So just be ready for it.
I've wanted it to be Charlotte Town.
I didn't ask what you wanted it to be.
Since those names were trademarked and came out.
If you're a betting man.
If I'm a betting man, I think they're probably going to go more generic and say FC Charlotte with a crown in the crest and kind of lean into that royal stuff. What about you? What do you think?
God, you stole my answer. You really did. I was going to say FC Charlotte too.
Well, that's because
we're
friends or something.
Yeah. No, I think they're going to go very basic with it.
Yeah.
As much as we might want like the Carolina Gliders to be the name.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely what we want. Or as much as some of the fans want to have like a bright mint kit.
Yeah.
Shirt. Like, I think they're going to play it safe and do something more generic. At least, but that Spider-Man blows that out of the water. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, we should say that the mint thing is our thing that they may or may not adopt at some point, but they're under no obligations to use the mint that the Mint City Collective have started.
Exactly.
So
all of that will be fun to watch over the next weeks and months. And one of the Panthers digital media guys, Bill Voth, who is awesome at his job, said that that's coming in the next few weeks. Didn't really put more of a time frame on it than that they have the name and they're ready to share it.
They have the name. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Or at least someone said that in Slack, and I think it was on Twitter. But who knows with the internet? Who knows with any of this? So we're
putting it out into the world on the internet too. They have a name, and they're just not telling us yet.
I think that's what's happening.
Everybody at the Panthers and try to get an answer at the Charlotte MLS.
So that stuff is coming, and it's coming, and we're going to be excited about it, whatever it is, and it's going to be a fun year to follow and hopefully get people involved with that whole process here to explain why they chose what they chose. If Spider-Man was just like their favorite superhero growing up, and so maybe it's Tepper's favorite superhero. Have we asked him? I haven't asked him.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring him on and ask him the one question we ask him on the podcast.
So the news roundup, to kind of sum all that up, we've got a few staff members. We've got some rumors about jerseys. We've got Eastland Mall that looks to be progressing. I think that kind of covers the main points for episode 1.
Yeah, I think
on my end, I think
that's where we're going to leave it. I think that's a good place to let it go. Hopefully with the next episode, we'll be talking about some branding or something like that. Since it seems like that's coming up soon. Yeah. So hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll be hitting you back with an update on branding or colors or both, or a head coach, or God only knows what we'll have at that point, but we'll fill you in when we come back to it.
Well, and in case you didn't hear, December 17th, MLS announced that Charlotte is going to have an MLS team.
Oh, really?
That's some big news, yeah.
Wow, we should definitely talk about that next time.
Maybe next time we'll talk about it.
Maybe next time.
But that's the big takeaway from this episode, I think.
We have an MLS team. It's coming, 2021. Right. Let's get on this. Like I said, in the meantime, definitely head over to mintcitycollective.com, follow us on social, join the collective, get on the Slack group, all that good stuff, and let us know what you'd like to hear in future episodes. We are open to ideas as we start planning out what this is going to look like over the next year before we have an actual team on the field.
I think, too, that you can expect to hear from other collective members in the next few weeks. I know several people have asked if they can be a part of it, and we definitely want people to be a part of it. So we'll have more people here telling their stories and talking about what Charlotte soccer means to them and what they're most excited about and all of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Johnny, for drinking beer with me today.
I mean, yeah, whenever. But let's do that again.
And thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.